All right. Well, we let those last couple people filter in. I want to get some housekeeping done. We're so happy to have you here and to join us as we talk about finances in the new year and how we can have a fresh start moving forward into them. I want to highlight something for you. We have a chat box that some of you have found already. Please feel free to share what you'd like in that chat box. That's really where we want to connect with you and learn more about you. You will see also there's a Q&A feature that's at the bottom there's a little band at the bottom of your screen that you can click on. There's more, and there's a Q&A box. If you have questions that are very specific to the webinar, please put them there and we can answer them a little bit cleaner. But you will be able to also contact us in chat. We have myself. I'm Megan. I am one of the community engagement specialists over here at Patelco. And then we also have Michelle, who's going to help us make sure that the chat and the Q&A is attended so we can get everybody's questions. You'll get a copy of the recording. It'll be sent to you in about a week. So make sure you're kind of on the lookout for all of that. If you're an attendee, congratulations. You're one of 3 who's going to be winning an Amazon gift card. So stick around to the end. We will randomly draw the names of 3 people who attend this webinar, and you'll get a $25 Amazon gift card. So if you see an email from Patelco that says you want a gift card, it's real and it's from us. At the end of this, there will also be a survey that it's only 5 questions. As soon as the meeting ends, you'll be automatically prompted. If you wouldn't mind just filling that out, we would love to get more ideas on maybe different topics for webinars, where we can grow, things that went well, all of that stuff. So thank you so much. We're very, very excited to talk to you about the finances and coming in a fresh start this year. Where we're going to be headed is into the arms of Andrew Farrell. And he is going to be able to give us a whole widescape look into finances this year. Andrew is our financial well-being educator out here over at Patelco, and he helps individuals build confidence in their financial lives. And he does that by engaging them, providing accessible education. Andrew encourages everyone to adopt a positive perspective on their financial journeys and strives to make financial knowledge relatable for all audiences. He is also a trivia host. So if you ever see him doing trivia, know that he is part of our very loved Patelco family, and we are in good hands. Like I said, if you have any questions, please direct them to the Q&A area. And if you have any comments that you just want to share with everybody, drop them in the chat so we can participate. Off to you, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Megan. I like that. Into the arms of Andrew Farrell. Here I am with arms wide open for you guys. So thank you all for joining. Welcome and happy 2026 to you all. Michelle and I were actually just in the podcast studio yesterday recording a podcast episode about New Year's resolutions. And she posed the question to me, how late into January are we actually allowed to still say Happy New Year? And I think we are at the point right now where maybe Happy 2026 is better verbiage. We're about 2 weeks into it. Hopefully everyone is off to a good start in their new year. We are so glad that you guys are all here for our first webinar of the year, which is Fresh Start Finances. So January is kind of a natural reset moment, right? We always try to start this year off with a budgeting refresh, budgeting reset webinar, just to kind of help everyone start off the year on a positive note. And that is what we are here doing today. So whether you're recovering from your holiday spending, you are reevaluating your goals or your budget or your saving strategies, or you're just craving a little bit more clarity into how to create a budget, this is the session for you. I believe that everybody deserves a fresh financial start, not perfection. There's no pressure, nothing like that, just a clean slate. So we want to equip everyone with some practical tools and a little bit of encouragement to help us all move forward with our fresh starts. We are going to go through some common financial stressors this evening that people can sometimes face at the beginning of the year. We'll talk about how to reframe them. We'll talk about mindset shifts that make budgeting feel a little bit less overwhelming and a little bit more empowering. We're going to break down how to build a sustainable budget, one that can fit your life. and that is not just bills and goals. And we are going to share tips for setting savings goals that do feel achievable. So whether you are starting from scratch or you are just doing like a little budget tune up for the new year, you guys are in the right place. Like Megan mentioned, I am a trivia host. My name is Andrew Farrell. I'm also a community engagement specialist and financial educator here at Patelco Credit Union. I'm actually not a community engagement specialist anymore. I need to change that. I am purely Patelco's financial well-being educator. I've been with Patelco for like 8 years now. I started at a branch, so I know a lot about our products and services because I was working on them when I was, in the branch doing my stuff. Was in community engagement for a couple years. So if you were ever out at any of the Northern California festivals, you may have seen me at our tent. Now I am the financial well-being educator with Patelco Credit Union. I love doing stuff like this. I love doing our podcast, our webinars, and trying to impart my financial perspective and my financial wisdom as much as I can from just what I've learned in this industry. I am also a trivia host. I plug this every time I do a webinar, so forgive me if you've heard me talk about this before. Every Tuesday at Mad Oak in Oakland, Mad Oak Barnyard. It's on 12th Street by Lake Merritt. Every Tuesday at 7 o'clock, free trivia night. It's pretty low pressure. You're playing for a couple free drink tokens. It's always a fun time. And I actually do have a trivia question for everyone tonight. So today, January 14th, is National Take the Stairs Day. So my question is, at 11,674 steps, the world record for the longest staircase in the world belongs to the Nisenbahn stairway up Mount Niesen in what country? If you know the answer, drop it in the chat. What country has the longest staircase in the world? 11,674 steps. The Nisenbahn stairway. What do we got? We got a couple Austrias. We got a couple Germanys. You guys are on the right track. Colette Ashby got it right with Switzerland. Aaron Fan got it also. Switzerland is where the Nisenbahn stairway is. Longest stairway in the world, over 11,000, almost 12,000 steps. That is wild. I was in Switzerland. I was going to say last year, but I guess it was 2 years ago. We did not go to this stairway, but we did go to Harderkolm in Interlaken. And we took the tram up. I could not even fathom walking that up in stairs. And this mountain is even taller than that one. So if you're able to climb 12,000 steps, more power to you. All right. I want to get this webinar kicked off with one of my favorite quotes, which is "The secret of making progress is to get started." This is by Mark Twain. You guys all made that first step to get here today. Whether your goal is to climb 12,000 steps to get to the Nisenbahn peak, or just to help, reshape your financial relationship a little bit, the first step in any progress goal that you have is just to sit down and do that first step and to get started. So if we all have New Year's resolutions to spruce up our budget a little bit this year, guess what? You guys have already started making progress because you are here joining us today. So thank you guys all. Welcome. I'm excited to get into it. All right. I want to start with a poll once I can figure out how to get this poll launched. My question for everybody here today is, there it is. We're going to go polls and launch. So what does everyone feel like their biggest challenge with creating a budget is? Do you feel like you have a hard time getting in the mindset to actually sit down, put pen to paper and do it? Do you have a hard time with your budget being sustainable? You don't feel like it's something that you can keep up with long term? Maybe unexpected expenses hit you and you feel like it's really easy to get derailed by that budget. Your budgets feel too restrictive and not fun enough or not enjoyable enough for your life. And so you have a hard time sticking with them that way. Or maybe you just don't even know how to start. You don't know how to begin creating a budget for yourself. It's just, random numbers on a page to you. What is everyone's biggest roadblock with actually getting their budgeting journey to the path that they want it to be on? Let's see. Ooh, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, but it looks like we have a pretty pretty even split among all five categories, with the leader being budget gets derailed by unexpected expenses. I know that life all too well. I do have good news for you, though, because no matter what you picked, we are going to cover every single one of these in today's webinar. So, good news, you guys came to the right place if you are challenging or feeling challenged with getting your budget kicked off on the right foot. We're going to talk about getting in the mindset. We're going to talk about mindset shifts, creating sustainable budgets, trying to predict those unexpected expenses or at least plan for them and give yourself some cushion for it, and trying to make your budget more aligned with your values and less restrictive for yourself. Sounds good? Beautiful. All right. I want to start by talking about this idea of a holiday hangover because I do think it's kind of funny or kind of ironic that these New Year's resolutions and this like whole idea of a fresh start and a clean slate and like, kicking the year off right comes right after we have one of the most stressful and costly experiences of the year every year, which is the holiday season. Some statistics that we have here: over a third of Americans went into debt this holiday season, this holiday being 2025. Going beyond even that, nearly half of borrowers are still paying off 2024 holiday spending, which sounds wild, but it's actually totally understandable. If you had to go into debt in 2024 and you're someone who, unexpected things hit, you weren't really sure how to get your budget on the right foot in 2025, it would be totally normal to still be paying that off a year or two later. Two-thirds of Americans feel pressured to overspend during the holidays because of the societal pressures to buy gifts, all the advertising, all that good stuff. And 1 in 3 Americans actually regret their holiday purchases, which is very unfortunate because the holidays should not be a time filled with stress and regret. I have talked about this in many podcasts and webinars in the past. The holidays are a fun time with family and hot chocolate and cookies and Christmas movies and even gifts if that's your thing, but it should not be something that you carry a lot of regret or a lot of shame around. So if January feels heavy for you financially, emotionally, energetically, whatever it may be, you are not alone. You are just experiencing the holiday hangover that a lot of people are feeling. But more good news, we don't have to stay stuck in this stress spiral. We sure don't. We are giving ourselves, remember, a fresh start for 2026 because we all deserve to start 2026 off with a fresh start. All this stuff, all this stress, all those $50 for a carton of eggs, all that nonsense, we are leaving that in 2025 and we are starting 2026 off on a good foot. The way we think about money and the way that we, shape this in our mind matters just as much as the numbers themselves. So, in order to really practice this idea of a fresh start for the new year, we are going to start by working on some mindset shifts. Now, these shifts that we're going to talk about here aren't just like motivational fluff. I try not to get a little woo-woo about things, even though I do think that sometimes it works. But honestly, when you think about mindset shifts, like there is I think a fine line between it feeling a little like just new agey, like motivational poster type stuff, and also the fact that there is science behind the way that our brain works. We talk about it in our psychology of spending webinar. If you have not checked it out, it's on our YouTube page. Go give it a listen. But like your brain actually does build wires that connect things, and by shifting your mindset, you can actually, like, in a sense, rewire your brain. These are going to be practical reframes that help us make clearer decisions and stick to better habits. So the way that we talk to ourselves and the way that we frame these things in our head can actually really make or break how successful we are at accomplishing our budget, our goals, whatever we are setting our sights on. So I want to start with this one: perfection, changing that from the idea of we have to be perfect to the idea of we are making progress. You don't need a perfect budget. Do you know why? Because a perfect budget does not exist. You need a working budget. You need something that is going to functionally work for where you are in your life. If that includes a weekly Starbucks trip, if that's something that you need to stay the course, put it in your budget. It's not about the budget being perfect by, some arbitrary standard. It's about something that's going to work with you and evolve with your life. We also want to change the idea of restriction into an idea of alignment. So budgets should not be about cutting joy. If you are afraid that creating a budget means that you're not going to be able to have any more fun in your life, that is not a budget that you're going to be able to stick with. That's how it becomes unsustainable. We want to make a budget that's value based. So if you're someone that values family, or you value friendship, or you value fun, or freedom, or fashion, fantasy, I don't know, other words that are like that. You want to think about what that means to you. What does like prioritizing fun, family, friendship, whatever in your budget mean? And then build your budget around that. We talk about this a lot. There can be room for anything in a budget. There just cannot be room for everything. So you want to make sure that you are prioritizing your values first and foremost and building the budget and what can be included in it around that. This next one is my favorite. Shame. We are going to change shame to feedback. So this is something that might get a little woo-woo for some of you people. And if I lose you on this, I'm sorry. But just hear me out. Stick with me. I have this tendency to be a perfectionist about things. So, for example, if I say I'm going to set a budget that I'm going to stick with, I am not going to eat out ever for, this year or whatever it is. If I break that rule that I set for myself, or I have a setback, or I, have some sort of road bump that I hit, I am going to feel bad about that. And that is totally normal. That is feedback. I wouldn't feel bad if that goal that I set for myself wasn't something that was important to me. I have the goal, I set it, I had a road bump, or I messed up, or I did something that kind of derailed me from that. The feeling of feeling like, ooh, that's not what I wanted is totally normal. That's just feedback. That's just data. I also have in my brain my inner critic, my inner saboteur, if you will, and I have named him Fred because that's not Andrew, that's Fred. Stick with me, hear me out. Fred is the one who then says, like, Andrew, you're a failure because you messed that up. You might as well just quit altogether because if you can't even make it 1 week without making a mistake, then how are you going to make it the rest of the year without making a mistake? It is up to Andrew, my actual brain, to not listen to Fred because Fred is not Andrew. Fred is my inner critic. Fred is my inner saboteur. I don't need to listen to him. I can still take the feedback. I can still take the data of like, I feel like that wasn't a good decision that I made. But instead of letting Fred drive the ship and steer me into a path of negativity and like negative reinforcement, I can just, it's kind of like those voices in the Peanuts, how the little kids listen to the adults go like, womp, 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 womp. That's what I need to make Fred do so that I'm not letting him derail me and I'm letting Andrew be the one that keeps me on the straight and narrow. Listen to the feedback, forget the shame. And then last, we have overwhelm. We want to shift that to small steps. So you do not have to fix everything all at once. One small habit, like a weekly check in, or just looking at your streaming subscriptions and finding one that you don't watch and cutting that, little things like that can add up in a very big way. So do not worry about setting huge, massive goals for yourself that you don't feel like you may be able to achieve, or goals for, a version of yourself that doesn't currently exist yet. Small steps, baby steps will win the race. It's like the tortoise and the hare, the age old tale. Small steps will help keep things more manageable and more realistic. All right. So, in building a sustainable budget, now that we've hopefully gotten our minds on a page to actually do this, I think the first step to build a budget that is both sustainable and aligns with your current values and your goals is to just put everything on paper. All of it. Income, bills, subscriptions, groceries, gas, dining out, everything, get it all in one place so that you can see it, touch it, visualize it, understand it. You don't need fancy software for this. A notebook will get the job done. If you have a budgeting spreadsheet, that's great. If you just want to type things in, your notes app on your phone, that's cool too. Do what works for you. But seeing it all laid out accomplishes several things. First, you can kind of see where your habits already are, and you can see if they align with your values. So we go back to talking about, creating a budget that's not restrictive, that allows for us to be, built around our values. If you're saying I am someone who really values my friendships, or I really value travel. That's an easier to, explain example. I really value travel and I wish that I could travel more often, but I just don't have the money. And then you put everything on paper and you see that you've spent $350 a month at Starbucks. Maybe you can then adjust and say, that doesn't make me feel too good. I should probably cut back on that so that I can build my budget around these things that I actually do want to put my energy and my motivation towards. It helps you identify patterns that are working, also helps you identify patterns that are not working, so you can tweak the budget to where you want it to be that doesn't feel restrictive for yourself. Also helps you identify non-negotiables versus flex categories. I say that instead of once because I think once makes it sound a little frivolous when it isn't necessarily so. But your non-negotiables are your must pays. So these are rent, utilities, groceries, that kind of stuff. Flex categories are where you do have more of a choice. So this is travel, shopping for clothes, dining out, streaming services, stuff like that. There should be room for flex categories in every budget. It's just about kind of prioritizing which flex categories you want to put above the others. And that can fluctuate. You can say, I really want to, put a lot of my extra flex money into a travel fund. And then once you take that vacation, you can say, great, now I'm going to put all that flex money into going shopping for new clothes. That can fluctuate and ebb and flow as long as it's intentional with what you want to do. Create thoughtful savings goals. We are going to talk a little bit more about this in a little bit, so I don't want to spoil anything here. But saving isn't just what's left over, right? Your budget should not be, I get paid, I pay my bills, I have fun, and then if there's anything left over at the end of that, I toss that in a savings account. Savings is something that you should build intentionally. So you don't just say, I want to save more and call it a day. You've got to be clear with yourself with what you want to save, how much, and by when, so that your goals feel a little more defined and a little more, tangible and accessible. And again, we talked about starting small. Even small goals matter. They give your budget purpose and they help you build momentum to keep setting small goals, keep crushing them, and keep that positive reinforcement loop going. And then last but not least, build in some breathing room, however you want to do this. So Michelle and I also on our last podcast that we put out at the end of December, Michelle talked about the idea of having like a miscellaneous savings account that doesn't have much money in it, but it's just in case you go over on some other categories or just to have like a little bit of safety net. That is a great recommendation. What I tend to do is overestimate everything. So if I have seen that groceries on average cost me, I don't know, $200 a month, I will plan for 250. I will overshoot all my categories. So that way I know that I have a little bit of a buffer in there. And then at the end, I can use that buffer for unexpected expenses or, small little treats for myself, whatever I need, because I know that my budget has some breathing room and some flexibility. Remember, life happens. Budgets that are too tight have a tendency to snap and break. And we don't want that. All right. Also, with building, I had this down here too. I talked about it earlier, but remember to revisit your budget periodically because, like I just said, life changes. So your income might change, your values might change. You might get, a new car note or have a car problem to where you have to wipe out your emergency savings. And you want to make sure that you're not operating off of a stale budget. So make sure that as life happens, your budget is being reevaluated. That is a very, very key point in creating a sustainable budget is that it's not a set stagnant for the rest of your life. It ebbs and flows with your life. All right, now we will move on. I have another tip to make sure that you keep your budget sustainable and not one that's going to be throwing random curveballs your way. And that is to remember to include or factor in spending on annual costs. So these are things that are like insurance premiums that happen once a year, taxes, utility fees, membership fees. These costs are really easy to overlook, and they're also a really quick way to throw a wrench into your budget. And like we were talking about earlier, these unexpected expenses that you were not planning for derailing a budget is super common. We just want to try to predict those. As far as these annual fees, so I have some apps on my phone that charge an annual fee. I have the All Trails app, I have like a photo editing app, and then I have like a recipe app that all have some sort of annual fee. And the way my bills are structured, I have a separate checking account that all my bills are set to auto pay from. And it's just enough money in there for that billing cycle to pay for it. So if an automatic fee hits that and I don't have enough money in it to cover it, I have many times had to like have my bank automatically pull from other accounts to cover those purchases. And I don't like that because I feel blindsided. I feel unprepared. I feel like I'm spending money that I wasn't planning on spending. So for me, it has just been as easy as like making a list of my set annual expenses, what they're for, how much, the day they hit. Again, this can be in a notebook, a spreadsheet, a notes app, whatever works best for you. I also, on my iPhone, you can go to like the subscriptions tab and it will tell you all of your annual fees that you have there. So that kind of helps you get a hold of that regard of it. And then also with things like routine vehicle maintenance, home maintenance, holiday spending, these are things that we need to account for also because it's not an if, but it's a when. These are also a little harder to budget around because they're generally not things that have like one set day and one set dollar amount each year, but they are costs that will take place, generally speaking, every year. We just talked about holiday spending at the beginning of this and how we often feel that holiday hangover because we weren't prepared for the holidays. Wouldn't it be a great gift to give to ourselves to be prepared for Christmas and 2026 by getting started right now? We can do it. Just requires, doing some math. If it's a vehicle thing, I don't know how many people do this. My dad has been telling me to do this for my entire life. I'm just now starting to understand the importance of actually checking my vehicle's maintenance schedule because then I'll actually understand like when I might have to get my tires rotated and when I have to get certain things done. And it feels like less of a blindside when these things happen. If you're someone who's been talking about maybe like sprucing up your kitchen in the fall, start doing some research on that right now. It's when you also get everything out on paper and you have a plan for your year, you can kind of forecast these things. It might feel silly to start saving for Christmas in January of that year, but I promise you, your wallet will thank you if you set that goal for yourself ahead of time and it's a mindful, intentional goal. You will feel much less blindsided. And speaking of setting these goals for ourselves, Michelle and I have been talking about this a lot on the podcast recently. We also just recorded an episode yesterday that's all about setting New Year's resolutions, goals. So definitely keep your ears out for that. It should be posted here, hopefully in the foreseeable future. I have also shared this slide on webinars past, but I always think that when talking about budgeting and building savings goals and savings buckets into our budget, that it's worth repeating, and that is SMART goals. So we have talked about figuring out what we need to save for. We have made sure that those savings goals are relevant to our lives, right? They're aligned with our values. We've also talked about starting small and making sure that our goals are realistic with where we currently are in our financial lives. Now, what we want to talk about is making our goals super, super, super well defined so that we know exactly what we're doing and we know exactly how we are going to hit those goals. And we do this by making sure that our goals are SMART. So SMART stands for, and again, apologies if you've heard me talk about this tirelessly. It probably won't be the last time that you hear me talk about it, though. SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So I like to break this down step by step just so you can see in real time how making your SMART goals just reads better. So we're going to break this down. We just talked about holiday spending. Let's say that that is a goal for yourself. So you're saying, Andrew, I'm on board. I'm going to start saving for the holidays for next year. If you just tell yourself that and you open up another savings account called holiday spending and you just arbitrarily throw some money in there as it comes, that is a really good first step, but it's going to be really hard to achieve that goal because we don't actually know what the goal is. So we put the goal through the SMART machine. We start with, I want to save for holiday spending. Let's start with the S, specific. Who do I need to buy for? Do I have rough ideas of what they might want to get? Like, do I know what I'm going to get for these people? So we say, okay, I feel good about buying gifts for my parents, my in laws, my significant other, my siblings, and my kids. Great. That's specifically, I'm saving for these people. Measurable, how much do I need to save? I kind of know roughly what they might want. I think maybe $1,000 for my holiday spending goal is a good number to shoot for. So now you know the dollar amount. A is attainable. How can I get there? Okay, I get paid every 2 weeks. So if I get paid twice a month and I want to save $100 a month, that's $50 per paycheck. And then I can do that in 10 months. So at the end of October, if I start in the beginning of January, I will have my holiday fund set away. Perfect. $50 every paycheck until the end of October will get me there. R is relevant. So this is where if any of those numbers weren't adding up beforehand, we can go and make some tweaks. This is the why behind the goal. Maybe we decide, you know what, I did overshoot a little bit. I don't have to get gifts for my siblings. We can just, take each other out to lunch and call it a day. You call them, you say, hey, Christmas might be light this year. They say, it's fine, Andrew, no worries. We now have made some changes. Parents, in-laws, significant other, kids. That's our shopping list. Still $1,000 because we really understood the why and the relevance behind our SMART goal. And then T is timely. How long will it take us to get there? 10 months, $50 every paycheck. So now our goal has gone from I want to save for holidays next year, which is very broad and overreaching, to wait for it. I plan to save $1,000 to buy Christmas gifts this year for my significant other, my in-laws, my parents, and my kids. And I'm going to do that by putting $50 per paycheck aside every paycheck until the end of October. Now it's done. It's super, super well defined. All you have to do are those steps that you just laid out for yourself. And if you want to make it even easier, set up auto pay. Set up an automatic direct deposit to go into a separate savings account, log into your online banking and have that $50 be transferred automatically. And then when the holiday season comes, you have to do nothing. It's all done for you. You'll have a nice bucket for yourself. The stress is gone and you can actually enjoy the holiday season for once. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Let's all get on board. Let's all start saving with our SMART goals. It makes goals, I promise you, so, so much easier to attain if you are just super well defining them and making sure that your goals are realistic with where you currently are in your current financial situation. And my last tip here for goals, put pen to paper. So this is actually scientifically proven to help you achieve your goals. There was a study done by the Dominican University of California that basically had one sample group that was doing goals that were just like in their mind. The other group either wrote them on a journal or a dry erase board or whatever. I think that group was like 40 plus more percent likely to hit their goals. So whether you're a journaler, whether you like to just write post-its and put them places, whatever it is, getting things out of your head and onto paper is scientifically proven to help you get you to where you want to be. I also want to talk about some tools that we have here at Patelco. So we have a great tool built into our online banking. It's called our Financial Insights tab. And we have this really cool budgeting feature that's right there. You can access this on your phone or on the mobile version, but it's right in your online banking. So if you have a Patelco online banking account, you already have access to this. It's already sitting there waiting for you. It's just called Financial Insights. Search for that on your online banking. This is kind of the budgeting side of it. I've shown this before, but I think it's worth repeating again. You can click the month that you want to look at, and it breaks down your purchases that come out of your checking account by varying categories. So how much you spent on entertainment, personal care, whatever. This is a very easy way to also kind of at a glance see what categories and what areas you might be spending more than you want to spend in. And it's a good way to get a quick snapshot of your existing financial habits. We also have, like I said, it's categorized here by purchases on the transactions list. You can go in there, and if anything doesn't look right, like maybe the system categorized something as personal care when it should have been categorized as like healthcare, you can go in and edit the category that way if you want to be super hands-on with it. And we have a really great savings goals calculator here as well. So you can plug in whatever saving goal that you have for yourself. I have a goal to go to Australia at the end of this year. We're shooting for October right now. And I have plugged this in. This is my own personal savings goal right here that I am currently using on the app. You can set a start date, a target date, a dollar amount, and it will tell you how far along you are in the progress. It can give you like tips for how much you should be saving per month to get there. It's a great way to kind of have a virtual accountability buddy for whatever savings goals that you have for yourself. You can also then, if you're having a hard time meeting your goal, you can go back to this budgeting calculator and see areas that you might be able to cut costs to put more towards savings. It's a whole comprehensive budgeting, saving, working in alignment tool that we have on our online banking. Again, it's called Financial Insights. I would encourage anybody who uses our online banking just to check it out and play around with it a little bit. And yeah, you can find it on online banking, mobile version or desktop version. All right. I do have one quote that I want to talk about before I move into my last little segment here on the webinar. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Financial advisor Dave Ramsey's quote. I look at a budget as a roadmap. So if you're someone who is navigationally challenged like myself, I live in San Francisco. If I were to tell myself right now, I'm going to get in my car and drive to the Sun Valley Mall in Concord, California, and I didn't have a map and I didn't have my GPS, who knows where I would end up? And that is exactly how budgets work as well. If you don't tell your money on the roadmap where you want it to go, it starts at point A, you want it to go here, 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 and here. If you don't tell it that and make it follow that map, it's not going to end up in those places. Without having a budget, you are just inherently going to be losing money because you're not going to be telling your money where to go. You're going to be wondering where it went. So if you are having a hard time starting a budget and just kind of the idea of it big picture, this is my favorite quote. Just think about it as I just need to tell my money where to go so I do not end up wondering where it went. Deal? Shake on it? Beautiful. All right. The last little third of this webinar or so, I want to give some tips for cutting costs. And actually, I am going to be recording a podcast next week, an episode of our podcast, Small Talks for Big Change. And I will be joined by the queen of financial health, Jennifer Mink. We are going to be talking in depth about tips, tricks, things like that to cut costs in your life. I am going to share some like grocery tips and hacks that I use right now to kind of cut some corners. But if you have any other money saving hacks, tips for cutting costs, whatever it is, drop them in the chat. We'll take some screenshots. If there's some good ones in there, we'd love to share them on the podcast and have the two of us kind of talk about your guys' hacks as well. So I will share mine, but please, please, please feel free to share any tips, any hacks that you have for saving money, cutting costs. Drop them in the chat. I know our other attendees here would love to see them. I would love to read them as well because it will give me some stuff to talk about on the podcast, and maybe you'll hear your hack pop up as well. So definitely use the chat feature for that. We'd love to hear them. But I will set the scene by talking about rising grocery costs. So grocery costs have risen nearly 30% in the last 5 years here in these United States. Food prices were close to 3% higher in July of 2025 compared to July of 2024. Shrinkflation has affected a third of grocery items. Shrinkflation, for those who are not familiar with the nomenclature, basically just means costs for things either rise or stay the same while the size of the thing goes down. So whereas a box of Cheez-Its might have been this big for $3.99, it's now this big for $3.99. And the things that shrinkflation hits the hardest are household paper products. So like, bath tissue, paper towels, stuff like that. Breakfast foods, snack foods, cereal, all that stuff have the highest rate of shrinkflation. When I look at these numbers and I look at like grocery costs rising 30% in the last 5 years, that sounds a little alarmist to me. Like I know they've raised, but it doesn't really seem like it would be that much. But then when I really think about it, I remember going to the grocery store in 2021, and granted, I was only buying groceries for one person at that point, but I could go to the store and buy myself groceries for the week, and it would be like $60. Nowadays, I remember I went to the grocery store last week, and it was a fill in the gaps grocery trip. You guys know what I mean? Like just one where you got to get a couple odds and ends things that you're missing. I think I had 13 things on my grocery list, some produce items. I know I had to get olive oil, which is crazy expensive these days. Tell me why I went to go check out. They told me the total was $115. I can't tell you the last time I've spent less than $100 at a grocery store for any size trip. But unfortunately, we need food. Like we need to go to the grocery store. We have to fuel ourselves. I don't know if this grocery bubble is going to burst anytime soon. So for me, it is about finding ways to reduce waste, have a plan, cut corners as much as I can so I can get the most bang for my buck when I am grocery shopping. First step, plan before you shop. Create a meal plan. There's a couple ways you can do this. I'm a big proponent of checking your pantry or your freezer and building your weekly menu around foods and ingredients that you already have. I also I like to cook a lot. I like to try new recipes, and I don't want to restrict myself from doing that because I don't want to live a life full of restriction. So I have to plan around it. If I have a recipe that calls for some random stuff that I don't normally have, like coriander or I don't know, saffron or whatever, beef broth is a big one because every recipe that I use for that calls for a cup, but yet the container is like this big. If I see a recipe that I want to make that calls for those ingredients, I will just find other recipes that also use those ingredients and try to plan my week around those kinds of things. So that way I'm not buying it and then letting it sit in my fridge and go to waste. Clipping coupons has also become one of my favorite friends in the whole wide world. I don't shop at Safeway a whole lot anymore, but when I do, you bet your bottom dollar I am going on that Safeway app and clicking every little clip deal that I can find because there are a lot of things that you would find on there that are wildly cheap if you just clip the coupons, take a few minutes ahead of time, and use their app to apply that stuff already to your Safeway card. You can also build your meal plan around that. Look at what's on sale, look at what coupons are available, and then plan your meals around what you're going to be buying because of the sales. No shame in coupon clipping whatsoever. Stick to your list. Also, you made a grocery list because those are the only things that you need. Those of you who attended the Psychology of Spending webinar will know this well. If you haven't, I'm going to plug it one more time. Our YouTube channel has it up there. It's a great one. The way that grocery stores are designed are intentionally like very strategically everything is placed in a way to get you to overspend. It is designed to make the most amount of products visible to you on your path around the grocery store. So it's really, really easy to go off script when you're at a store. Try to be very mindful about that these things that you're seeing are not things that you need. They're just things that, you know, millions of dollars of market research are trying to tell you that you need, and stick to your list. If doing grocery deliveries is something that works for you, that's also a great option because then you don't even have to go to the store. You resist the, temptation triggers that way. But be very, very intentional about only getting the things that you have planned to get. And then last, try not to go to the grocery store when you're hungry or if you're stressed or if you're feeling rushed, because this will just make those spending triggers, it'll make you even more susceptible to them. My biggest one, I am not a big soda drinker myself. I tend to carry this water bottle around with me everywhere I go now as a result, because if I'm thirsty, I'm going to want a Dr. Pepper or a Coke or something. And this has happened so many times where I've been at the checkout line and I've been thirsty and they have those Cokes right there in the fridge. And I grab one and I buy it and I take one sip and then I'm not thirsty anymore. And now I don't want the rest of this bottle of Coke because I just made a quick impulse purchase of something that I would have been fine if I just took a sip of water. So try not to go to the grocery store when you are in a place where you might be very susceptible to buying things that you don't necessarily need. A lot of times that's going to the store when you're hungry. Shop smarter, not harder. So this is, a tried and true tip, but compare unit prices, not sticker prices. Always look at the price per ounce as opposed to the price per unit. Something that is cheaper on paper might actually not be cheaper per item that you're getting. So if you can't afford to buy in bulk or buy a little larger and the per unit cost is cheaper, try to go that route as much as you can. Buy store brands. I will scream this from the mountain top. Generic and name brand foods are frequently made in the same factory by the same manufacturers. They use identical recipes. They're the exact same item. The main difference is just that a lot of times the packaging is cheaper and there's no major advertising cost for the store, which causes them to be less expensive. So some brands, like store brands, are truly the exact same, down to like the maltodextrose gum, that's the 17th ingredient, as the name brand. There are also a lot that use like slightly different ingredients or minor tweaks, maybe like a different water or fat ratio, but it is, pretty much the core same product as the name brand is as well. Functionally, it's the same food item. There are a few things like Oreos, for example. I have yet to find a worthy dupe Oreo. So like we all have our one or two comfort foods, our comfort name brand items. I don't want to take those away from you. Everything else, go generic. Choosing whole ingredients over pre-cut or pre-made items. I have never seen markups that are more wild than a bag of pre-cut broccoli being $6, or I can buy a stock of it for two. These pre-cut and these pre-made items are you're just paying for convenience that you don't necessarily need. I used to get like little salad bits or chicken bits to put on my salad. A container of like pre-shredded chicken that's real small at Safeway was like $12. I can go to Costco and get the whole rotisserie chicken for 5. So try to avoid the pre-cut stuff as much as you can. Shopping seasonal produce for better prices and flavor. I love cherries. I love cherries. I buy them the 3 weeks that they're in season in the summer because it's a real quick flash in the pan that they're there, and I do not buy them any other time. You better believe those 3 weeks, though, I am chomping on some cherries, but I went to the store yesterday and they were like $6 a pound. I don't eat them that bad. Shop different stores for better deals. So if you really want to get the most bang for your buck, it is not very likely that you are going to find all of that in the same store. When we go grocery shopping now, it tends to be like a whole morning event. We'll go to Costco and we will stock up on our meat because we can buy that in bulk because it'll go in the freezer. We stock up on like non-perishables there, things that aren't going to go bad. What we do not buy at Costco is produce because it doesn't make sense for us. It's two people. We cannot go through a bucket of strawberries in a week. So we don't buy our produce at Costco. We buy our produce normally at grocery outlet or at Trader Joe's. Then at grocery outlet, we'll go and buy like flour and olive oil and things like that. So it's about, different stores do different things really, really well. And if you have the time and the energy, I fully, fully recommend not just making your grocery trips a one-stop shop, especially if you're clipping coupons and this store has really good deals on this store has deals on this. Ranch 99 Market, if anyone's a big fan of the Ranch 99 Market, they have the cheapest produce around. So just find what stores do the best. It takes a little bit of extra planning and a little bit of extra research, but you can save a lot of money if you're willing to make a couple different stops. And then last but not least, always check expiration dates. If you shop at grocery outlet, I guarantee you know what I'm talking about. I have gone to grocery outlet before and it's been January 16th and I will pull out a box of iceberg lettuce or salad mix and it will say best by January 13th. You don't want to buy that. You'll also sometimes be at Safeway and looking at, some produce item, and this one will say it expires in 3 days, but if you move a few back, you'll find the ones that expire in like a week and a half behind those. When you're buying things that have a short shelf life, always look at the expiration dates, especially if you're shopping at a gross out. That's my name for grocery outlet. um, or any kind of store like that, and try to get the stuff that has the longest shelf life. Unless you plan on using it in a couple days, then it's fine. But we just don't want it to be wasted. And speaking of reducing waste, there's lots of ways to curb our waste, population as well. If we're already spending this money on groceries, we want to make sure that we're actually using it and we are not literally just flushing money down the toilet. So I'm a big proponent in freezing leftovers, freezing ingredients that you're not going to use right away. We do a lot of single portions. So like when we go to Costco and get our meat, we cut them up in small little things and put them in the freezer. We had a podcast, Melissa Steed, who is a team member in one of our Sacramento branches. She talked about buying like a bunch of Costco rotisserie chickens, shredding those up and freezing those and letting those last, a couple weeks. Buying in bulk, as long as you can freeze things and preserve them to extend their shelf life and use them later, always a great tip. Repurposing old food. I have not bought croutons in such a long time because we always generally have a couple pieces of stale bread at the end. I just cut those up into cubes, toss them in a bowl with some olive oil, bake them for 10 minutes, and now I have homemade croutons that taste even better, and I'm just repurposing stuff I already have. I cannot tell you, probably every 3 weeks, I am baking a loaf of banana bread because we have a couple of bananas that have turned spotty. Just try to be intentional about the foods that you have that are going bad instead of just throwing them out. How can I reuse these? If I bake a loaf of banana bread, guess what? breakfasts now or whatever lunches are covered for the next week, and now that's less stuff I have to buy elsewhere. This tip right here has been a game changer for me, and that is to keep a section in your fridge that is like the use me first section, a bin, an area, whatever it is. I am going to be real with you guys. I'm going to give you guys the harsh truth. If you have a container of leftovers, or you have half a cucumber because you didn't use the rest of it for the recipe, and that cucumber ends up in the back of your fridge, that cucumber is going to die in the back of your fridge. I cannot tell you how many half an avocados wrapped in saran wrap I've thrown away because they got lost somewhere in the fridge that I didn't see it. You can tell yourself you'll remember it's there. You probably won't. So we have now designated this one area of our fridge to be like the half vegetable leftovers, use this stuff first section. We keep it front of mind so that way it's not getting lost in the sauce. And we know that these are the things that have the shortest shelf life, and these are the things that we have to eat first so that we are not wasting. And speaking of not forgetting about things, we've also started keeping a running fridge freezer like inventory. So on the side of our freezer, we have a dry erase board where I have an inventory of how many servings of meat that I have. That way I just have a running idea of what I currently have in the freezer at all times. I'm not accidentally double dipping. I'm not accidentally buying something that I already had and wasting money that way. And it also helps us plan dinners and plan our meals because we have at a glance what we currently have in our freezer. So yeah, those are my grocery saving tips. Those are my grocery saving costs. Would love to hear yours, grocery related or not. Any other tips that you have for cutting costs, please let us know in the chat. Or like Megan said, you can email us at patelco@webinars.org. I'll share that email here in a second as well. But we'd love to hear your money saving hacks, your money saving tips. So Jen and I can discuss it on the podcast that we record here shortly, and hopefully you guys tune into that as well. All right, I want to leave you with one of my other favorite quotes. You become what you give your attention to. This is a nugget that you can take with you and apply to any aspect of your life. I talk about this, but if you say, I want to climb Mount Everest, and you pay attention to that goal and you give it the proper respect and attention and work that it deserves, and you focus on your training and your preparation, you will climb Mount Everest. Anything is within your reach if you consciously make the effort to give it the necessary attention. We started this webinar with, the first step to progress is getting started, which you guys did. Now that you've gotten started, if this is a path that you really want to go down, save money, tighten up your budget, give it your attention, and I promise you it will happen. It is the power of manifestation. More woo-woo stuff, but it's not actually woo-woo because it actually does work. All right. I want to plug a couple things here. I've mentioned our webinars. If you are interested in that Psychology of Spending webinar or any of our other webinars, or you want to go back and watch this one, scan this QR code. It will take you directly to our YouTube page. Just Patelco. You search that on YouTube as well. It'll pull up all of our videos. It pulls up video recordings of our podcasts, our webinars, all that good stuff. Share it with a friend as well. Get an accountability partner and, start 2026 off with a fresh start. You can listen to our podcast, Small Talks for Big Change, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or again on YouTube. You can check them out there. We've got some really great stuff on there. If you want more of me, that's where you'll find me. And we have a couple other wellness resources and partnerships as well. Spring 4 is a great resource that we have that can put you in the direction of, if you're, facing food insecurity or, housing needs or whatever, plug in your zip code. It will direct you to community-based resources that can help you out. Balance is a great financial coaching platform that we have. So if you have a one-on-one needs that you want to talk to, you can meet with a certified balance counselor and they can help you out. Bonsai is also a really great financial wellness platform, financial literacy platform that has great articles, great budgeting calculators, great financial toolkits. All of this stuff, our webinars, our podcasts, all of these wellness resources can be found at our website, patelco.org. And then there's a financial wellness tab. If you click that, it brings a drop-down menu that has all kinds of good stuff in there. So I would definitely recommend checking all that out. We have like a sister webinar to this one coming up in 2 weeks, same time, same place, January 28th at 5:30. It's going to be cleaning the slate. So we talked about fresh start. Now we're going to talk about cleaning your slate, practical ways to pay down debt So, whereas this webinar was more built around creating a budget for yourself and goals and things like that to have a fresh start, this one's going to be like more so of the angle, what if I'm bringing in that debt with me to the new year? How do I have a fresh start with all this existing baggage? We are going to give you some great debt repayment strategies, some good angles for debt repayment to help you find the approach to tackling debt that, again, aligns with your values and fits with your life. So if you're interested, we should be sending the email for this one out soon, but I know registration is open. Same place, patelco.org/webinars will take you right there. Or if you're on our financial wellness tab, you can click on webinars and register directly on our website for this upcoming webinar. I hope to see you guys all there. If you are not an existing member, or you have a loved one or a relative who wants to become a member or wants to get a relationship with the financial institution started, a credit union, they can join with this code right here, R7BLWCGZ. They open up a free checking account with us with a $100 opening deposit, as well as add one of our money market accounts. We will match it and give them a $100 bonus. So that is a great way to get a little bit of a kickback. For any non-members, or again, if you have friends or family who you want to refer over to Patelco, make sure they use this code. Again, free checking account with a $100 opening deposit and add a money market account. They will get that bonus. And last but not least, questions, need additional help, you have feedback, suggestion for future webinars. 2 avenues, webinars@patelco.org. Please send us your longer form questions there. Like Megan mentioned earlier, we also have a poll that's going to show up here in just a second. As soon as I end this webinar, I would greatly, greatly appreciate if everyone can just take a minute and answer those questions. Really helps me learn what I am doing well, what I can maybe improve on. If you have any suggestions for future webinars, we would love to hear those. Just let us know your thoughts in the poll. It's going to come up automatically as soon as we end this webinar. So I would really greatly appreciate your guys' feedback. Positive or negative, we would love to hear it. So with all of that said, thank you guys all so much for attending tonight's webinar. Megan, how was the chat? How'd everyone go?
I feel like I have so many ideas when it comes to grocery shopping now. There are so many great ideas in the chat. I saw one about bagels, freezing bagels, which is such a great idea because they're so much denser than a bread. I feel like I look forward to the podcast and hearing some of those being highlighted because there's some really good ideas.
Yeah, glad to talk about them. Well, thank you guys all for joining. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, all of you guys. Happy 2026, and we will see you guys on February 28th. You guys have a good night, and please remember to fill out the survey. Thank you all so much. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Hey you guys, hope you liked that video. Thank you for watching. For more financial wellness information, go ahead and click here to subscribe and here to watch the next video. Thank you.